first time we've ever done that.
Were you there? Call the Board of Directors meeting of the Denton County Transportation Authority meeting to order. Note for the record, here comes council. It's 3:09. And pledge allegiance. Doug Peach is going to do that, and I'll give the invocation. We'll get started. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Father in heaven, we just thank you for all the opportunities you give us to serve our community, and we just praise you for the guidance and direction we've had in the past, and pray for that in the future, and just guide our decisions and conversation today that will honor you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Introduce visitors, Charles.
Okay.
We have several visitors today. I'd like to introduce, make sure you know, Greg Baxter and Dee Leggett with First Transit. Although you guys know Dee, she was actually the first one to win the 40 under 40 recognition. Jared was. Oh, the second.
How long ago was it?
Oh, no, wait. Now, Charles, that's a tacky question to ask. Yes.
Anna and I would have made it a clean sweep, but we were able
I got you. Yeah. No, some of us aren't under 40 anymore, so, oh well, that's such as how that goes. Michael Hinden is here. He's with the, I got a chance to meet Michael the other day at the joint meeting of the Denton Mobility, the City Council's Mobility Committee and the Traffic Safety Commission. So thank you for joining us, Michael. And Brittany Tabor is now is with the Denton Record Chronicle, and so she's first meeting you've been to, Brittany. So welcome. And Jim Owen, you know Jim, ATU, and so I think I got everybody, Marty, your family, so we're good. Okay, awesome. With that, that's all of our visitors. Thank you, Charles. I'm moving along.
Okay. Let's go ahead and just take it in the order, at least item number 1, which is consent agenda. Let me read it off. 1A, approval of minutes for the board work session and regular meeting on August 25, 2016. Item 1B, acceptance of financial statements, August 2016. Item 1C, approval resolution 16-07, approving the master agreement governing local transportation project advance funding agreements with Texas Department of Transportation. Item 1D, approval of shared services interlocal agreement with Dallas Area Rapid Transit and the Fort Worth Transportation Authority. Is there a motion? Second? Any conversation, comments? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition, like sign. Abstentions, same sign. We'll go to the regular agenda. I'm going to go ahead and, Jim, maybe take these out of order. We have one board member that has to leave. In case we've got conversation, I want to make sure these are done in this order. Jim has requested that. Let's take 1A, 2A, 2F, B, C, and D, and E in that order. Is there any disagreement with that? Okay. Item 2A, approval of resolution 16-06, adopting DCTA 20.
For all the staff and for y'all's participation in that process.
Question?
Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion?
That was Tom. Did you second?
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Got it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition by like sign. Abstentions, motion carries. Item 2F, discussion approval resolution 16-08, adopting amendment Article 4, Section 2 of DCTA bylaws governing officers' term limits.
Mr. Chairman, that's board business. We discussed that. We brought that up before and discussed that. It turns out the chairman has a term limit, and the other board officers do not. And so we've discussed making those all the same and not having term limits on those officers at this point until such point as the board decides they want to exercise that or do that. And in the past, we have elected a slate of officers, typically, and this would make that more expeditious to do. So that's the proposal.
Any further discussion, comments? Is there a motion? You make a motion?
I'm making a motion we approve item 2F.
Is there a second?
Second.
Doug?
3 seconds, take the seat.
Okay,
Um,
Colin, Doug?
Yeah, you got it.
Mhm.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition by like sign. Abstentions, motion carries unanimously. We're back up to 2B, approval of resolution 16-09, designating authorized officials for DCTA bank depository. Any comments further?
Yep, Mr. Chairman, to follow up on the discussion, this provides 2 additional members of the board as the second signator on larger checks. That would be adding the secretary and an appointed position in assistant treasurer, as well as designating, the staff recommendation is that cap, the floor, or the check, the maximum, the number for the checks, a check above $25,000 and above require a second signature from a board member. First signature by a staff member, and we'd recommend approval.
You have a
How about an
question?
amendment? I'd like to, how do you do that? I want to get $50,000 into an amendment. You can reject it, but I'd like to consider it.
We bring the recommendation as the board, as terms of rules of order. If there's a motion, correct me if I'm wrong, Counselor, but if a board member makes a motion
You can make an amendment to it.
or you can make a motion to be $50,000.
You vote the amendment first, is that correct?
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay.
Well, I'll make the motion, the original motion, that we accept the depository and the individual, and the 25,000 as recommended.
Is there a second?
Now we need to move for an amendment.
Move for an amendment that we take it up to 50,000. I don't see a significant difference in the value of the checks.
Now we need a second. on
Okay, we
the
need a second on
And
that.
it can fail right now,
Do I hear a second? No second?
so it fails
Okay,
for
so
lack
we'll
of a
go back to
second.
the original motion
That's correct.
as it's stated, okay? There is a motion, there was a second, as I recall. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition by like sign. Abstention, motion carries unanimously. We're item 2C, which is discussion authorization of the president to execute a contract for the provisions of excess rail liability insurance. You want any further comments?
No, it's just we recommend approval, giving me the authority to execute a contract for excess rail liability insurance in the amount of $125 million with a $2 million SIR.
Discussion, questions of the board? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition by like sign. Abstentions, motion carries unanimously. Down to item 2D, discussion, authorization of the president to execute a contract renewal and amendment with the city of Frisco for the provision of transit services. Any further comments?
No, we recommend approval. This has been a good contract, and we've been asked to allow that to expand and continue into the next year. We recommend approval.
Is there a motion? So moved. There's a motion, second?
I'll second.
Okay. The motion, I'm sorry. Okay, question?
Just verify, the contract that we're approving includes the potential, we're not just renewing the contract, we're extending it.
They've asked us to expand the service into portions of Plano, particularly for medical trips around Plano Presby and all that, and to consider also alternatives such as Uber, Lyft, and taxi vouchers. This continues to be a fully reimbursed contract. This is not any service that we're adding without being fully reimbursed at a loaded rate. And as I recall, the contract also has them prepay. We invoice at the first of the month for that month's services.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't see a reason.
No.
I've had questions a lot of times on rail issues.
Counsel, you got a comment? You okay?
Primary interest in.
There's no 171 conflict. I mean, you're here to serve as the city's representative on the board for that, in that regard. So as long as you don't have a personal interest in it, you're good.
I don't know any.
You're not driving the
How did
bus?
you find a vote?
You're not driving a bus or anything like that? Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition by like sign. Abstention. Motion carries unanimously. Item 2E, discussion, authorization of the president to execute the implementation of pilot I-35W commuter bus service and interlocal agreement in partnership with the Fort Worth Transportation Authority. Any further comments?
Yes, just real briefly, we wanted to make sure that, as particularly in terms of our Title VI and a lot of the requirements with the feds, when we add service, it's been asked or it's required that the board take an affirmative action on that change, which is what we're asking you to do today. In addition to that, we're doing this in cooperation with the Fort Worth Transportation Authority, both for the lease of a bus, fare policy, future efforts, and this would set us up to do that with that interlocal agreement, and we would recommend approval.
Any questions? I'm sorry, did you make the motion? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further questions or
One
comments?
question.
Yes, sir.
We are accustomed to calling them the T. Is this a formal change, Fort Worth
I believe they have
Transportation
changed.
Authority?
They made a formal change a few months ago from the T, they got rid of that, and now they are the Fort Worth Transportation Authority.
So we should properly call them the Fort Worth Transportation
Yeah, they changed
Authority.
over
The
their
T is no longer
website.
valid.
Yeah,
Okay.
FWTA.
I got
And
you.
my question, this ridership, are we gonna report, we're gonna track this?
Yes, no, and we will track this as a separate, as a separate unit, just like we do Frisco, just like we do UNT, and all of that.
Okay, any further questions? We had a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition by like sign. Comments, questions? I think we're through with that one. Okay, we finished, as I know it, the regular agenda items. We're down to number 3. Are you okay with that, Jim?
Yes, sir. I would recommend, if you don't, since the items 5 and 6 should go pretty quickly. You may wish to cover items 5 and 6 before we go into executive session. I would recommend we go into executive session under item 3B.
Okay.
After we cover those items, but we'll certainly do in whatever order the board wishes us to go in.
Okay, let me make a couple of comments. Jim, you can pick up after that. We have done something kind of new in the last month and a half, where we've taken particularly new council members. It started with Denton, Highland Village, and Louisville. We still have Highland Village to do, but we've taken them out to the O&M facility. We've done about 3 or 4 of these. We've covered almost all the Denton City Council, got all the Louisville City Council this last week, and just telling them, particularly the new folks, the story of DCTA and what we're about. And I think that's really critically important, that at least our sponsoring entities, it's open to any city that we serve, but particularly those sponsoring entities, and the new folks therein, that they understand this. I think it's been well received. Jim, I believe these folks, in fact, they had a council meeting out
We're going to
the
post a
O&M
council
facility
meeting at the O&M facility for
for
Louisville.
Louisville. Highland Village is coming up in the next week or so, but if you have any others that you'd wish to hear that, we'll do it. I just think it's important that particularly we've gotten some age on us now. We've had almost a complete turnover of councils and those kind of things, that they really understand this organization, because those 3 entities are making a significant investment, and we just want to maintain communication. That's ongoing. If you have any others you'd like us to do, we'd certainly be willing to do that. I have reported to the executive committee my interest in a legislative agenda. I'm not going to go into details, but just tell you that the executive committee, to my understanding, was interested in what we have to offer. There's one thing that will really be, and I'll start with probably the House side of the legislature, even tomorrow night, have a meeting with the legislature. But what I would like to do, just so you all understand, and this is going to have to be fine-tuned, I'm sure, but is to introduce the thought, which is brand new. Don't know if it's going anywhere, but we're going to take it there. That text.fund, text.rail. Okay? They've been a consulting, whatever, management group up to this point. They've had, at least 6 years of life, and I think it's time that the legislature fund that organization. One of their primary roles is safety. We, like every other rail entity in Texas and across this country, costs on safety. So I'm going to introduce that thought. We'll see where it goes. But if we could get them to put safety money into TxDOT Rail, let them independently as a department of TxDOT make the decision where it goes, I think we have some opportunities for additional funding. We'll see where it goes. There's a couple of other ideas that are only, yes, sir.
Is it number in mind, what you think, what you think about, how much?
Not yet. I think we're going to have to see about what the scope of coverage of entities are. But I know there's plenty of requirement up here. Secondly and thirdly, I have some ideas that are only seeds that will be planted. I'd like for the legislature over the next year, 2 years, whatever, to embrace perhaps a Florida law that I developed under years down in Florida called the Development of Regional Impact, where new development pays for its anticipated load on the transit system. And I don't know where that's going, but seeds got to be planted somewhere. I tried it with Ryder Scott about 4 or 5 years ago, or before Kevin's firm came in. It really never got a start there, but I think it has some opportunity. There's another thought that I want to introduce, and it's to build regional toll revenue pool again, like we had when we got our $250 million out of managed lanes projects. Now that's going to have a tough argument, but it's an opportunity. And so I want to introduce the last two, but certainly propose the first one and see where it goes. So that's, if anybody has heartburn about that, I'd like to hear about it, but the exec committee was, I think, really ready to go with it. So effectively, I'll be starting that tomorrow. Okay, just wanted you all to know that. Jim, did you have anything else here?
Just a couple of things, no budget transfers, regional, and I guess items of interest here at DCTA. I know we got a request before about Old Town, some of the vegetation. I know I talked to Raymond and Jeff about there's on the rail side, there's some mowing that needs to be done, and also look at a couple of some of the landscaping that may need some work, so we'll continue that. On the rail operations, our new rail operator begins work on Saturday, October 1st. You should see no difference in terms of operations from a customer standpoint. But that is happening, and that should take place. They're well prepared. I was in the meeting with the regional administrator where he said they were ready and that they were pleased with how they're coming forward. So I feel very comfortable with them, and I know, Raymond, you do as well. And so we're making that step forward. The service to Fort Worth on the bus will actually start on the 26th. The leaders of the Fort Worth Fort Worth Transportation Authority are traveling now. They'll have an official kickoff on the 3rd of October at 3 p.m. at the ITC. Any of y'all are welcome. It would be a good thing. We'll make sure we have some information on that that goes out. But that's coming up here pretty quick. And Charles, that's all I have.
Tell them about the groundbreaking on TxRail that we went to.
Oh, we did. Oh, yes, we did. Charles and I, and I think several others, were at the groundbreaking for the TxRail project with the Fort Worth Transportation Authority. Very cool. They recognized our presence, and that was well appreciated. Good partners at the T. Oh, and one other thing I did, I was able to travel to D.C. last week for the FRA's Rail Safety Advisory Committee meeting. While I was there, we went and, we mentioned before, but did visit with our congressional offices, and we were well received and get good ideas on where they stand, and they're very supportive of the DCTA. So, good news all around.
Number 7, you got any, Jim? Pardon me. Items of community interest, board, any comments?
If we could, Charles, I would recommend we go back to item 3B if we've covered those other items to discuss items, some information under that item, if we could, please.
Okay. So you want to go into executive session?
I would recommend that, yes.
Okay. And it's item number 3B, correct?
3B, yes, sir.
Okay. I know you have to leave.
Thank
We may.
you, sir.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
you bet. So under Texas Government Code, Section 551.072, deliberation regarding real property, that is to discuss acquisition, sale, and lease of real property related to long-range service plan within the cities of Denton, Louisville, and Highland Village. It is now 3:29, and I'll call that executive session to order effectively, and ask that all those except staff and board board members to exit the room. Well, I'd like to.
I would think so, right?
Are these recorded? Are these recorded?
Oh,
Got it.
close. I guess it is. How you turn it off?
I just stepped on that.
Perfect, girl.
Yeah. Well, mine's pretty little, mine a little weird because it stepped on it. Okay, I see nothing else. Jim, you got anything else?
No, sir, we're
Anyone
done.
else on the board? We're going to adjourn the meeting at 4 o'clock. Thank you all a bunch.